What's up, fine folks? Welcome back. This is episode 17 of Double Tapped. I am Jay.
17 again. I'm Tanner.
Shout out to Zac Efron.
Yeah.
Shout out to 13 Under 30 with Jennifer Garner.
Shout out to Freaky Friday.
Oh, I just thought we were rolling with the numbers.
Oh, I thought we were doing body switching movies. Those are all body switching movies.
Oh, does he switch bodies in 17 again?
Yeah, it's him and...
I thought he just got younger.
Oh, maybe. And then 13 going 30, she gets older.
Right.
Right. But Freaky Friday is a swap.
Yeah.
But they're all... You're in the body you're not used to.
Yeah.
Even though it's the same character, I think, in 17 again.
Right.
Isn't old version Matthew Perry?
I think you're right.
Okay. Well, gaming.
Tanner, I'm going to be consuming today a Narragansett.
Yeah. Jay walked in, and first of all, he was holding his bag
like over a hobo pack
over his neck like he's carrying a tuxedo jacket.
That too.
And from my view, when he walked in the door, I thought he was just like grasping his neck like he had some sort of wound. And I was like, what the hell are you doing? He was like, oh, I'm just holding my Narragansett.
There's an N.
Oh.
There's no M's.
Oh,
Narragansett.
All right, Narragansett. It's a lot of N's. Okay, gotcha.
3 N's, 2 R's, 2 T. And there's no S. It's just Narragansett. But I guess plural would be Narragansett.
Gansett. Yeah, I wasn't throwing it.
It's not possessive. I thought it was possessive.
Shout out to Narragansett. So what are you drinking? What is the...
Dell's Shandy. It's refreshingly different.
What's the... I see there's a paragraph on the back.
Hi, neighbor. Great-grandfather DeLucia made his first frozen lemonade back in Italy in 1840. During the winter, he carried snow into nearby caves and insulated it with straw.
What?
When summer arrived, he mixed the snow with fresh local lemon juice and sugar, making a refreshing drink. His grandson Angelo introduced this icy treat to Rhode Island in 1948, and today there are over 30 Dell's stands across America. Gansett, that's a shortening of Narragansett.
Right.
This is an apostrophe.
Okay.
Gansett is proud to be present. Oh, no, is proud to present this delicious shandy with the perfect balance of Narragansett lager and lemon flavor. It's refreshingly different.
Okay, so it's some other lemonade stand's collabo beer with Narragansett.
And it's interesting because it's like, anyone out there who drinks beer, you've probably had a Leininkugel's Summer Shandy at some point.
Sure.
This is simultaneously beerier and lemonier.
Oh, wow, it's just volume cranked up.
It's like you took like a scoop of like a frozen lemonade and dropped it into a lager.
That's not a bad.
It's pretty
not
good.
a bad pitch.
I like it. Very summery, obviously.
I am not partaking because I got a little too drunk last night and was hungover this morning, and the thought of alcohol disgusts me currently. I'm fine otherwise. I'm good. It's just I do not want to drink today.
Yeah. And we were discussing, various symptoms that can arise.
Sure, of hangovers, yeah.
And I was referencing the throat flap.
Yeah, so tell me what this is. You told me to stop, and we'll talk about it right now. So
maybe this is something that is unique to me, but I have woken up before with the sensation of a sore throat, but also the sensation that as part of the sore throat, there's like it's as if I can feel my windpipe like open and close. It's like, where you swallow, you're not swallowing into your lungs.
Right.
So it's sort of like you can feel it, and it's like up here. And it's like, if I like cough, it's sort of like that's one of these.
Interesting. See, I definitely had a sore throat this morning, but normally for me, hangover sore throats are from throwing up at some point. I had not thrown up. Yes, I had not thrown up at that point. I would later. But at that point, it was just I woke up and my throat really hurt, and I was like, I need water. And I started drinking water, and as someone who loves water, it was disgusting.
What are you supposed to like? What's the best alternative to water?
I guess something like a Gatorade.
That sports drink?
Yeah, some sort of electrolytes.
The flavor of that is usually potent enough.
Sure.
And it's still refreshing and hydrating enough.
Yeah. But now I am on a mixture of good old-fashioned lemon-lime Sprite. Which is maybe the best soda for if you're not feeling well.
Ginger ale.
Any sort of...
I love ginger ale, though, anyway.
Yeah, me too. And I also just love Sprite. But I also have water as well. And now tastes fine because I slept...
It takes a while.
I slept for 7 hours, so...
Well, I assume you didn't play anything in that 7 hours, but what have you been playing otherwise?
Nice segue. I have been playing mainly one game that we have not talked about before, called Spiritfarer.
I've heard of this.
This game was made sort of like I wouldn't say quite Game of the Year buzz last year, but was definitely in maybe not nominated for overall Game of the Year, but nominated for one of the best indie or whatever, and had that buzz around it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's gripped me in a way that I did not expect. So the idea of this game is that you are this girl character named Stella. You have a dog, or you have a cat named Daffodil. Mm-hmm. Very cute. And you are sort of taking over from Charon and escorting people through the river Styx. Yeah. Now, this is very metaphorical. This is not like Hades' Charon, who is like a lot more classical. But this is more, you have a boat and you accommodate certain people, certain spirits on this boat. And basically, it reminds me a lot of Pyre, Supergiant's Pyre, in that you do several quests with these characters, and then at some point, once you've kind of completed their quest line, then you escort them on to the afterlife.
Sure.
But this is a very like whimsical, cute game. It looks like a Ghibli movie. Like, it has a very anime, but like not like Persona anime. Like, very just pretty, cute, effervescent.
Ni no Kuni.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit more that way for sure. But even I would say even more like Americanized cartoon looking than that. It's very, very cute. The soundtrack's great. It's one of those games where like you feed everybody on board, so you can grow your own plants and you can cook, and you build all these things on the ship, and then you're going to different islands, and I need iron so I can make this to get to this part of the map. So now I have to go find iron, and it's all about. It's one of those games where it's a one more thing game, where you do one more thing and then suddenly it's 4 hours later.
Did you play on PC?
I'm playing on PC. It's on Game Pass. That's how I'm playing it.
So it is available elsewhere.
Yes. I think it's on everything. I know that it's on PlayStation. It's on sale right now in the summer sale, if that's still going. It's on Xbox. It's on PC. It's on Switch. Really, really like it a lot. Especially, again, we've talked about how I got Game Pass for $1. Incredible deal there because it's awesome. I'm really liking it a lot.
Tanner, I feel like our loyal listeners have gotten an insight into my personality as of late, which is that when I find a thing, I tend to beat that thing into the ground until I just never touch it again.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what's going to end up happening with Slay the Spire, because I can't, at this point, I can't stop until I at least beat the heart with the defect.
With all 4 characters, yeah.
Yeah, to get the platinum, because the Watcher apparently was added later.
Yeah,
so the platinum is only, the core 3 characters.
Sure.
So if I can beat it with the defect, I've looked at the trophies and some of them are weird, but it's not unreasonable that I could go for the platinum. But it's so hard to mount enough defense with the defect. I can mount the offense. Like, especially my favorite card in the entire game, I think it's called Electrodynamics.
Okay.
Which makes the lightning that you channel hit every enemy if there are multiple.
Yeah.
And then you can just crank your focus up and make the lightning do more damage and never use an actual attack and just let the lightning do everything. That's like my favorite strategy, but it's hard to then have enough ice in your deck, which is the defensive orb that you use with the defect, to build up enough defense. And then I got there last night to the heart using the old reliable intangible apparition thing that I referenced that I use with the Ironclad.
Yeah.
But I did not have enough health, and you only have 5 of those cards.
Right.
And against the heart that has 750 health, that's not going to last you.
Clock's going to run out.
You need more than 5 turns worth.
Yeah.
So I continue to chip away. I think the best thing to do is going to be to just get my favorite artifact in the game, which is the one that, or not artifacts, relic.
Yeah.
That lets you add an orb slot every turn up to 10. And once you get up to 10, you just crank your focus way up, then you're almost untouchable.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to get that far and get enough focus to where you're just you're basically what's the machines that theoretically cannot exist?
Perpetual motion machines?
Yes. You'd be like a perpetual motion heart killer.
Right, yeah.
So that's the plan. We'll see if we can ever get there. Let's move on to the news.
Okay.
Of which there was not very much this week, but there's a couple fun little tidbits.
Okay.
The first of which involves a game that I would say, boycotted.
Oh.
Not for any, political or moral reason, but just because we were tired of the same old, which is Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War.
Okay, sure.
And the way I wrote it here was Call of Duty BOCW. When I looked down at first, I thought it was Call of Duty Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Breath of the Wild.
But Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is getting an Among Us style double agent mode.
Interesting. Okay.
I read about this earlier, and if I'm being honest, it sounds really fun.
Okay.
Because it's effectively, I think it said there are 10 people in a map, one double agent.
Sure.
The double agent's job is either, kill everybody else or do a search and destroy style, plant bombs that are set across the map.
Right.
And then everyone else are the operatives that are trying to suss them out. But there's also, I read, one person that's designated as I'm going to go find the details of this because it was really intriguing to me. Because there's one person that is not normal double agent, not double target. I can't find anything. Black Ops.
In just hearing this briefly, this reminds me of, and I've forgotten the name of it now. There's a Gmod game that is like this, like a double agent style thing that this is reminding me of as well.
Yeah.
I think it's like TLTL, but I forget what it's, or maybe that's something else.
Yeah. So there's one person called the Investigator who will apparently need to find clues in order to help the other operatives.
Right. Okay.
And I really love certain gimmicky modes in first-person shooters.
Yeah.
I always loved the Michael Myers, custom games that were made back in the day. I've always found Infected to be really fun in every game that does that. And conceptually, Among Us, I think, is really cool. It's just one of those games that never found a crew to run with and play it personally.
You need a big bunch.
But Call of Duty, it seems, not unreasonable that you could play it with strangers and have it flow fairly well.
Yeah.
I'm not going to buy the game.
Right, of course.
But, I hope that maybe this idea persists onto the next iteration of Call of Duty that actually tries something different.
Yeah. Well, see, okay, I remember the name. It's called TTT. I think it stands for Trouble in Terrorist Town or something. But it sounds very similar. But
I remember Terrorist Town.
This is a very popular YouTube thing.
Yeah.
A lot of YouTubers do it. Achievement Hunter, I know, does it a lot. But that whole thing, the setup with that is only 2 people have guns, and the other people have different roles that they're trying to execute, and of course 2 of them are the betrayers or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of negotiating with the one person with a gun, and they're looking at 2 different people, and they're trying to yell and be no, I'm good. It's great. It makes for really all of these game modes are really good for content, I guess, because it's just people trying to buy their way out of stuff.
It's sort of first-person shooter faking it.
I was gonna say this is very much your kind of thing too.
I love faking it
because you love faking it, which is if you don't know, it's the Jackbox game. I don't remember which pack it's in, but it's you're with a group.
It's 3 actually.
Party Pack 3. Okay, you're with a group and one person is the faker, and you all get a prompt to your device except for the faker who doesn't see what the prompt is. And then you either have to point at someone in the group, raise your hand or not, hold up amount of numbers, or make a face, which we never do that one because that one sucks. But then based on everyone's reaction, once the time is up, you then have to have a discussion on who is the faker. Yeah. And sometimes, if you're the faker, sometimes you get a question that you're just so fucked on that you can't talk your way out of. But a lot of the times, if you're good enough, you can either talk your way out of or pass the blame on to someone else or whatever. So it's a really fun mode, and we normally play it when we have a group together. I
love any video game or board game where you're forced to try to lie convincingly. I find that very fun because I think I'm pretty good at it. Don't know what that says about me, but
I'm hit or miss. I think I feel like with faking it specifically, I'm either out in the first round or I make it all 3.
Yeah,
I don't have a lot of middle performances.
Well, it's hard. I think it's if I luck my way into a semi-convincing answer, I'm good.
Yeah.
I can talk my way out of any answer that isn't super far-fetched.
Sure, yeah.
But obviously there are some answers that are just completely, you can't dig yourself out of this hole.
Right, yeah.
And at that point you're just screwed. But anyway, the next story. The Dead Space remake is reportedly aiming for a late 2022 release. Which is... I think people are interpreting this as a pretty quick turnaround for a game that we've only just saw the first teaser of.
Right.
But in an ideal world, isn't this about the timeline we should expect from a game that gets teased? It would be released about a year and a half later.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And it's a remake, which
True.
inherently would take less time than. I mean, I know this does take a lot.
They don't have to design the game from scratch. They just have to sort of rebuild it.
You have to update it, yeah. Which again, I'm not trying to minimalize what the amount of work that goes into it. I'm sure it's a shit ton of work still.
Shout out to Blue Point.
And probably even harder in some ways than creating your own game, right? Making sure it still feels like the original and satisfying the fans of the original, all that kind of stuff.
You're just not doing all the like storyboarding and creative work.
You know what the story beats are. You probably, I mean, obviously they're already working on it, but even when the meetings happen for, hey, are we going to do this? You probably have in your head, okay, well, this is how it ages badly. This is what we want to modernize. This is how we're going to do it. So yeah, hopefully. I mean, I would hope that it does come out quickly, but yes, I think we should. We're in a weird spot with gaming announcements, I think, because you and I both love announcements for games. We love trailers, we love the hype, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it sucks when something gets announced and then just doesn't come out for a long time.
Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Might never come out.
Or, what was the Eco Shadows of the Colossus game? Last Guardian. Right. So, like, games like that, at some point, I wonder if it's actually good for the studio because you build up so much mystique.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can make more money by making more games. So you would never want to just have the one game. But yeah, there's this weird culture of like, we have to announce it as soon as possible, but then the game's not going to be out forever. I would rather studios take and not even this approach, this is pretty standard, I would think, or I would hope. I would rather studios take sort of like the Fallout 4 approach, which is something we always point to, right? It's announced and then 6 months later it's out. So hopefully maybe we're having studios lean that way. I don't know. I don't see it happening, but...
Yeah. I agree with your point because I, for one, never would have paid any attention to The Last Guardian if I hadn't heard the name Last Guardian in hushed tones for years every E3 of like, is this game dead? Is this game, in development hell? Where is it?
Yeah.
It's just funny to see it finally pop up, and I didn't know what it was until the name. Oh, I was like, oh, that's The Last Guardian.
That's what that is. Right, yeah.
But like now, if we ever see like Agent.
Right, that was the one I was going to point to.
Yeah.
Agent would probably be like oh yeah, that was a fun Rockstar thing that they did, right? Because Bully. Yeah. I would think of it, we probably would think of it in the same way, Bully, which I think has more sort of love than I realize, because I know a lot of people point to that game, but, it's just another thing Rockstar did. It's not one of their tent poles.
Yeah.
But now, if Agent were to ever come out, people would lose their mind. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting, the sort of economy of time and lost games and things that have been in development hell, like Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah. So, final story, and this isn't really a story.
Okay.
But you sort of pointed this out to build up your own excitement. So I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of the games coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Here in the next little bit.
Yeah, it's a good month.
Namely, next week Hades comes to consoles.
Yep.
The week after that, your very highly anticipated 12 minutes.
Can't wait.
So let's talk. Well, first let's talk about that, but then I have a question.
Okay.
So let's talk about these first. Your level of hype just for Hades, first of all.
Okay, so if you're
I'm excited because I've never played it.
We're recording this on Saturday. If you're listening to this, it's probably out on a Wednesday or Thursday. It's this Friday when you're listening to this. I am weirdly more excited for this than a lot of new games this year, because all I needed from Hades, as you know, I loved that game last year. If it weren't for Last of Us 2, would have been my game of the year. I adored Hades. And all I needed on PC from Hades was just something to push me a little further to keep playing it. I beat it, 8, 9 times, however many times I beat it. It's one of those games where you beat it a lot.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, all right, I'm just going to move on to something else. But I just wanted a little bit of more motivation.
And what could that thing be?
Trophies.
Yeah.
That's all I needed to go toward a platinum. And it's been long enough now that I've had the itch to play it. And I'm just like, no, just hold off to the console. Yeah. Hold off to the console. There are very few games that I get excited about buying twice at full price. This is one of them. Sure. I am so freaking pumped about it. And I think Hades, I think it's only going to be, what, $25, $30?
I think remember. 30. I don't know for sure.
I can't remember if it's 25 or 29, but this game is worth full price for me. I had more fun in it than I've had in a lot of AAA games, so I'm fine to pay $60 overall for an amazing game.
Yeah.
And then 12 minutes, which is a top-down, I guess, puzzle kind of style game where it's a Groundhog Day thing. You're trying to not have your wife be killed, I think.
I think it seems to be what they're leaning
that's the prime
towards.
directive, but it's like a narrative game set in this time loop with voice acting from Daisy Ridley and Willem Dafoe and one other person. James McAvoy, thank you. Annapurna's producing it, that's why they have the voice acting, but I'm pumped for this. It's a game that got previewed, and I think I've said this on a podcast before, so it got previewed on Kinda Funny like 4 or 5 years ago now. It started out being developed by one dude. I think there's a team around it now because Xbox put some money into it to make it exclusive. One of the reasons I ended up getting Game Pass was because I knew this game was going to be on it. I'm so hyped for this game.
You think this game, and now we're getting really granular with
genres. That's fine.
Could it be considered a rogue game? We don't know what it is exactly yet.
Sure.
But in theory, it's...
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Like, the...
It's just interesting to me how at least the very, general shell of a rogue game has just exploded in the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
This being just the latest iteration of that kind of,
sure.
Cyclical, do this over and over again until you figure out the right way to do it kind of game.
Right. So, the only thing I can point to is Sexy Brutale. Do you know what this game is?
I know the name.
So I platinumed this game. It is also a murder mystery time loop based game, but you're in this mansion and a bunch of people throughout the week that you're there, every day somebody dies, I think. And your whole thing is you go through the day and can reset the day whenever you want to stop them from dying.
Yeah.
But they weirdly, I know conceptually that sounds a lot like 12 minutes. I think they're going to play pretty differently because that game is straight up a puzzle game.
Sure.
Where it's like those Tales of Monkey Island and like those kind of early adventure games where you have to get this light bulb to screw in this light so that turns on, so when this guy comes by, it's that kind of thing. I don't know that that 12 minutes is going to be that straight up puzzly. It seems a lot more about story.
Yeah, it gives me like sort of short run, choice-based Detroit Become Human kind of vibe. Like or not even just that game specifically, but that studio.
Yeah.
You're just making the right dialogue choices and maybe doing a couple of small gameplay things, picking up things and putting them in certain places that affect the outcomes. And I'm curious, do you think runs are actually going to be about 12 minutes long?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe that's why.
I assume that might be the shtick.
Or maybe in the game it's 12 minutes, but in real time it might be half an hour or whatever.
And I'm sure they'll incorporate that in there somehow. Maybe a run is actually longer than that, but then at a certain point, like...
Once you get it down... You
have 12 minutes to then do something to, like, prevent the death, whatever.
Or the perfect run is 12 minutes, like, that's what you're shooting for. I don't know. I like how weirdly vague this game has been, because every trailer we've seen has been basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't... the art style's updated a couple of times, and obviously the last trailer that they showed at whatever Xbox thing it was more about the voice actors than the game itself. But yeah, it's been getting love at, like, game festivals and film festivals a lot. I think it's going to be at least good. I'm very excited for it.
So my follow-up question to us talking about these hype releases of these not AAA games.
Yes.
What is the next AAA game that you, at this point, think you're like locked into buying?
It's a good question, because for a while it was Deathloop.
Right.
It's not anymore.
Yeah, after the debacle, which we spoke about a couple weeks ago.
Yes, catch that on our whichever podcast it was that was talking about the PlayStation show. But yeah, I guess Horizon.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. Assuming Horizon now is firmly early next year.
Yeah.
That's probably the next one that I'm like 100% doesn't matter. I'm going to get it.
Right.
Because Deathloop hasn't really done anything for me, and I was just kind of scrolling through because you've got your usual like 2K and Madden suspects.
Sure.
For the rest of this year.
I might get 2K.
You've got Ken Bridge of Spirits, which is not really a AAA game, I wouldn't call it.
No.
And even then, I'm not 100% sold on it. I need to see more.
Yeah, me too. I mean, if it gets, again, a lot of these games, I think you and I are in the same boat where it's like, if reviews are amazing, I will be much more intrigued than I am right now.
Far Cry 6, I'm willing to pass on until it gets cheap or just pass up entirely.
I'm good on Far Cry.
Back 4 Blood, I'm not playing unless everybody else decides to play it.
So I've seen a few friends streaming it, and it looks... I mean, I knew it was Left 4 Dead, but the closed beta's right now, and if you watch on an hour on Twitch or whatever, you get a key. The closed beta is right now, and it looks so much like Left 4 Dead. Yeah. It's incredible. Like, if you're itching for Left 4 Dead, I think that's going to scratch an itch, but I'm not really.
No, I'm
to be
not.
honest, I enjoyed that game.
I never did play those games.
I enjoyed both of them as like an early. I played, I think, Left 4 Dead 1 on 360 and 2 on PC. And they were fun, like, sit in a voice chat kind of games, but like you said, I would need a group to really want to play that game.
Yeah, Battlefield 2042. Nah. Like, we don't know what Call of Duty's plans are this year still.
Oh, wow.
Whether they do.
It's kind of late.
Which makes me think they're not.
Are they going to skip a year?
I mean, this is the only year that they've sort of got the infrastructure built that they feasibly could.
Right, just let Warzone do its thing, yeah.
Which might be a better pattern going forward, to have like their ongoing platform and then go like every other year and give those studios a break.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine by me.
The one that did jump out that I forgot about because it was only just recently brought back into my headspace is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, is that this year?
Due for October.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was that soon.
October 26th.
We did see a lot of gameplay.
Which I'm not going to say I'm 100% in.
Sure.
Because it does have what I'm going to call the jank factor.
Yeah, it does have a little bit of that.
It has a little jank. Sure. Like, it's not the smoothest.
It's not polished.
Yeah. It's, it could be really fun. If it reviews north of 8 on average by most outlets, I'll probably pick it up around launch.
Yeah.
Let's see if there's anything else here, because obviously so much stuff has gotten pushed.
Yeah, understandably so, right? Like, COVID screwed up a lot of releases, I'm sure. I mean, Horizon and God of War were supposed to be this year. Neither of them are this year anymore.
I forgot one that's still this year technically.
Okay.
Dying Light 2.
Oh, is it really?
December.
Oh, wow.
I'm 100% in on Dying Light 2.
I need to play more of the first one.
That is the one. Because if it wasn't that, I forgot Elden Ring is January.
Right. Okay. Well, that would be the first one then. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. We'll see.
But my initial take was like, what is left for this year?
Yeah.
At this point, Dying Light for me is the one shining beacon that I'm going to be looking towards for late this year.
Yeah, I would say the other ones that pop out to me in my head is Halo this year, or did that get delayed? I know it was originally supposed to be this year, but I can't remember now.
Golly, that's a good question. That game might never have a release date.
Or wait, no, Halo was supposed to be last year and got delayed.
It was supposed to be last year.
Because it was supposed to be a launch game. So that's one I'll keep my eye on.
But it still doesn't have a firm release date, but it's Q4 of this year.
This year? Okay.
So it could be
like January too. Yeah, okay. Interesting. So maybe that. Psychonauts 2, I don't know if that counts as a AAA.
I wouldn't call it.
I don't know that I'm even going to play it. I enjoyed, I played one YouTube video's worth of Psychonauts 1, so about an hour of it. It was really fun, but I apparently played a bad port. I played the PS4 version, because they did some sort of, like, very low-level porting. It wasn't, like, remastered or anything. But I played on PS5, and there were some, like, textures that didn't load and like some really weird janky stuff, so I don't know if I'll get back to it in time to play Psychonauts 2, or even if I need to. But I will say that like level design and idea and sort of world seems kind of cool. So
yeah, honestly, I
maybe
know
that.
So it's weird how much I've heard the word Psychonauts, and yet I really could not tell you a single thing about those video games other than the style, because I've seen the trailers.
Sure,
but like, is it a third-person platformer kind of?
Yes. Yeah, okay. Puzzle platformer.
That'd be my guess.
There's a bit of, like, open-world exploration to it.
It gives me, like, Sly, Jack and Daxter kind of vibes.
You're in the right ballpark for sure. I think the thing that sets it apart from those games is that it has a more fleshed-out, like, world-building thing. So you're, at least in the first one, you go to this camp, which is for, like... It's almost like an X-Men camp, but for kids, like camps for
like outcasts, sort
kids
of.
with special abilities or whatever.
Sure.
And then the whole gameplay of it is that you learn how to get into someone's head, and all the levels are inside people's minds. So like the first one you do is this like he's like a teacher at the camp, but he is former military. So you go in and there's like tanks and air bombers, and it's like basically you're kind of playing through their dreams and nightmare scenarios kind of. And it's also very tongue-in-cheek, as all Double Fine is. Like, it's very funny. So that's all, that writing in that world is really what I think I would buy into if I were to play it, especially since it's going to be on Game Pass. I might give it a go.
Yeah.
Because I'll still have it at that point, but we'll see.
Seems like everything's on Game Pass at this point.
Dude, Game Pass is so good. Like, I so wish Sony would match it because it's incredible.
Yeah. Well, we talked about what's, left for this year.
Yes.
So let's pivot to what's going to be our big topic for today.
Okay.
And we're going to have our initial Game of the Year discussion for our Game of the Year so far.
Okay.
Because we've said we've got these games coming up. You don't know where 12 minutes is going to come in, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
But we've been in sort of a little bit of a dearth recently.
Yep.
So this seems like a good time before, what, scraps are going to be in this fall. Because it's not going to be the most packed fall ever.
Right, yeah.
But before the rest of the games really hit the market, we need to talk about what the best Game of the Year so far has been.
Okay, so I'm going to pull up what's come out.
Okay, I think it's a good idea.
Because I mentioned to you when you told me this briefly before we started, I have a hard time remembering what year stuff comes out.
Yeah.
At this point, especially not as much with AAA's, but with as many delays as there have been, and also like indies with stuff being like in early access and all that stuff.
Yeah, because I'm going to let you pull that up, but I will say that I have two in mind.
Okay.
For me personally. One that I think is kind of the obvious one.
Hitman 3?
No.
Oh.
Returnal.
Oh, yeah, Returnal, of course.
Hitman 3 was the other one.
Okay. So which one do you want to talk about first?
I guess I'll talk about Returnal first just because I think, unless you pull something out that I've just kind of forgotten about, Returnal at this moment is probably my Game of the Year so far.
Yeah.
And I would kind of be surprised, based on the stuff that we just read off, if anything beats it by the end of the year. I think the gameplay is immaculate. I think the story was intriguing, if not entirely satisfying, but only because it left you wanting more answers.
Sure.
But that's not something that I would ever penalize anything too much for, because it leaves some intrigue.
Yeah.
I loved Returnal. Like, it's one of the best, and it's my favorite of that genre that I've ever played. It's my favorite rogue game.
Yes.
For sure.
I would agree with you. I think so far, not to make the conversation incredibly short, I think my Game of the Year is also Returnal so far. I need to look. We'll see what indies.
And I want to see
some
people what consensus might be, because Returnal was a little bit divisive, just a little.
Sure. Like you said, I mean, the gameplay is immaculate, up there with one of the best just shooters I've ever played. I thought of it actually. I can't remember if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, when at some point we were talking about how. It was last week because we were doing the hot takes thing. And, some people really dog like Uncharted shooter gameplay, whatever. Yeah. And I said to you, I was like, when's the last time you played a really good single player shooter? I didn't think of Returnal because it's so different formulaically, but the gameplay there is amazing. The world is really cool. I get really excited for environmental storytelling. This is something you and I both love. Something I loved about The Last of Us and like BioShock, all the BioShock games. All the little audio logs you can find, the little text things you can find, all that stuff really excites me, and this game was full of that. The gameplay shines most, but I think also just that world is the best character in the game.
Yeah.
And I really like the story. I like the question marks it leaves. I like that it's like watching a movie where you're not sure what the ending is, and then you can go talk about what the ending meant. I like that sort of interpretive style of storytelling, and I wish more games would do it, really. Like, a lot of games are too, this is it, like, this is the ending, and now we're going to explain everything. I liked how this took more of a film approach and was just like, whatever you think it is, that's what it is.
Here's some interesting things. I love a few little aspects. I love that it invoked souls in the boss fight formulas that brought out.
Incredibly hard.
I love that it evoked horror in the house sequences. You go into the first person. At some points you're playing as a child.
Yeah, very PT style.
And it had some legitimate, like, pretty freaking creepy moments in that house. Yeah, it was scary. I love games that don't throw horror in your face constantly, but pepper it in to build the suspense. I think that is a much more effective way to do it.
I agree.
Returnal is very hard to beat in my head. However, I'm looking here at some games that... among not us, there are definitely some games that have had more cultural cachet this year.
Okay.
One of the first ones that I saw, did you ever touch RE8?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Okay. Because Lady Dimitrescu has just been all over the internet ever since that game came out.
Yeah, she's very popular.
And I'm sure some horror aficionados out there might put that near the top of their list.
Yeah, I've seen quite a bit of it, not like spoilers levels, but... I've seen a bit of it streamed. I know my buddy Straub, he loves that series a lot. And I think for him, that's probably his game of the year. It seems, by all accounts, really good. Which I was not surprised by, but I'm impressed by how quickly they can turn those out and them still be, like, loved. I will say, like, as far as cultural impact goes, you're absolutely right. Like, Lady Dimitrescu is one of the most impactful characters on gaming culture in the last however many years. Like, she is everywhere and has stayed everywhere. And even like her, I don't know if they're her daughters or whatever.
I think they're her daughters.
Like,
but I don't know.
the other younger women in the game too. Like, I've seen friends of mine.
Vampire ladies.
Yeah, friends of mine have cosplayed them, and like it has that cachet.
Yeah.
The world is really cool. The thing that's out on is just I've never played Resident Evil. I don't have an attachment to that series, but it seems good from all accounts. It's just not something that I'm.
The only critique that I ever remember seeing was that it was short. Like, you could beat it in like 10 hours.
Sure. But I mean, for a horror game, I don't know if I want more than that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because people complained that like Alien Isolation back in the day took like 16 hours to beat.
Yeah.
And people were like, it's kind of repetitive because you're just hiding from the alien for 16 hours.
Right, yeah. People love that game now, though.
Let's circle back to Hitman.
Okay.
Because I think Hitman, among people who played it, might be one of the most universally beloved. Like, I don't think anyone who played Hitman 3 hated it.
No, I don't. Yeah.
Like, how could you play it and hate it? It's so charming.
Yeah.
For a game about assassinating people in progressively either more gruesome or more comical ways.
Yeah.
Agent 47, this is going to be a weird take.
Okay.
Agent 47 is so bland that he circles back around and becomes funny in a way.
Yeah.
You know, like the point of him is that he is the blankest slate possible. Right. And because that's the point, it's good.
Right.
The voice acting is just like sort of like basic.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't like inflect. There aren't. I wish there were other more interesting characters in the game. Like, none of the characters in the game are particularly interesting.
Right.
The story is not particularly interesting. But in a weird way, 47 himself is so vanilla that he becomes the most funny, interesting character in the game.
Yeah.
And I think the level design in Hitman 3 is just off the charts.
Oh, it's...
You start in the Dubai level, you go through the murder mystery, you go through the Berlin nightclub. Like, all of those levels have a unique shtick that is just makes them so much more fun. Like, Hitman 2 and Hitman 1, which I've played, a lot of the levels are just kill the targets.
Right.
And they're interesting looking, but they don't all have like a meta game the way this one did.
Yeah.
That made it really different and special.
Yeah, this game, the more you talk about it, the more I realize how much I liked it. Because I've also played not as much of 1 and 2 as you have now at this point, but I'd played them. And this game seems to shout out to IO because they just get what Hitman is so well.
Yeah.
I think in the past people have, and maybe not like people who've made the game, but I think a very easy mistake you can make with Hitman is leaning away from the silliness. Like, even the story, quote unquote story of Hitman in the past has been a little bit too serious. Sure. And it's like, oh, you're this agent, like you need to, and even maybe Hitman 1 is a little bit like that. But in this game, there's literally a Knives Out level and it's fucking awesome. It's one of the coolest levels I've ever played in a game. And then there's the level where you are just hunting assassins and you don't know who any of them are. So you just have to figure out with context clues who they are. It's incredible. Like, the amount of creativity they still have with those levels is so impressive. And also, game looks phenomenal.
It looks really good. Like, the style doesn't like push the limits of anything, but the fact that they can encompass, these levels and add so much detail, that's probably what differentiates it. They're not having to build a giant interconnected world.
Right.
So they can pour in a ton of detail into like the mansion where the Knives Out level is.
Right.
You're going through this ornate library and then you can just pick up a pool ball and just throw it at somebody's head.
Yeah.
And everything looks like it's meant to be there in a weird way.
Yes, 100%. Like, there's even... They can put something in every nook and cranny. One of my favorite ones in the Knives Out level. Have you seen Knives Out, the movie?
No, I have not.
Okay, this is the minorest of spoilers.
Sure.
In one scene, a character gets frustrated in the movie and picks up a baseball that's on like a desk and like chucks it really, really hard, but you don't see that she's chucking it at the window. And so you expect a window to break and then it just cuts to an open window. So she just like, and it just goes out an open window. In the Hitman level, there is just a baseball at the foot of a window, and that's it. They don't. That's all it says. It's just like a little Easter egg if you remember that from the movie. But yeah, there's a lot of, even the character interactions are really cool in Hitman 3. Like, they're weirdly funny. Sometimes you can eavesdrop conversations that are hilarious. I think it was in Hitman 2. There's the one that everybody points out of like the security guard going to take a pee. And he's on the phone with his wife, like talking about his prostate problems or something. And if you just sit on that ledge, you can just hear this entire conversation. Yeah. And like they have no reason. That guy could just be a guard standing there, but instead they give him so much character with this little phone call. I'm very excited for their James Bond game because I think it's a great pairing, and I'm pumped.
I will say though, I agree with you 100%. I'm super excited for that, but I hope they come back to Hitman.
Yeah, I think
more.
They will.
Because what I was just thinking as you were saying that is the natural, style of assassination. If you were a professional hitman, let's put ourselves in the shoes of a professional hitman.
Sure.
You don't want to be carrying in a bunch of your own weaponry.
Right.
You want to be able to walk in completely undetected, pick up whatever, use that thing that was already there to completely, deflect blame from coming back to you.
Right, yeah.
And the fact that in this game, you can just go and walk into a room and like, oh, there's a letter opener on a desk. I'm going to pick that up and use it as a knife and throw it at somebody. I'm like, that's the way that a real assassin would do it.
Right, yeah.
And the fact that they're just incorporating all of these little potential, some of things that are not even weapons and turning them into weapons is what I want. And I hope they only get more, not necessarily creative, even though that would be fun, but just, I want everything possible to be an option at my disposal in those kind of games. So I hope that that's sort of the boundaries that they push going forward in that series.
I will say that game too is perfect for content creation.
Yeah.
Like just watching, there are people who will just, go like, I'm just going to kill everybody in the level with a briefcase. And they just like throw briefcases at every person. There was one that I watched around the time that I was playing through it. There's the underrated level, the winery level, which is really cool, and there's a lot of cool ways to kill people. One of which is like a grape crusher, basically. It's just like a piston that has a big platform on it, and you can put someone in there, and then obviously they get crushed, and it looks grotesque. Someone I saw knocked out every person on the level and put them in the crusher, and it like basically just crashed the game.
Yeah.
But the game did a good job of like holding up for a long time, so it was just like like you could just hear every crush happen. It was hilarious. Like those games have so much charming humor on top of everything else when they could just be like serious spy games.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that makes me optimistic about the James Bond stuff. I didn't realize I was wearing a James Bond shirt. But like James Bond always has that like tongue-in-cheek. The best James Bond films have the best tongue-in-cheek, like it's not that serious, even though it's a very dire situation kind of thing. And I love that they keep that tone.
There is one game that I have not played.
Okay.
But I think that critically would probably be the game of the year so far.
Okay.
And that's Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart.
Yes. So I've not played it either. And you know how much I like the first Ratchet and Clank. As I was just looking through more games. I will probably play it before the end of the year, maybe. I'm just waiting on a sale. Yeah. I don't know that I want to spend $70 on Ratchet and Clank. That's really all it is. Everything I've seen about it's been good.
The consensus that I've seen is that it is about as polished as a game could possibly be. Right. But that it does, just kind of, it is kind of more Ratchet and Clank.
Sure, yeah.
It tries to do, it does unique stuff with the world jumping and with introducing, what's the female Lombax? Rivet, yeah. It sort of does some interesting things with her character and other characters that are brand new.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's not this groundbreaking story. It's more fun Ratchet and Clank.
Right.
But apparently, technically, it's like about as marvelous looking and running of a game that has ever been made.
Which, I buy that. I mean,
yeah.
Insom is really good.
They're goats over there.
I just saw a picture of a goat, weirdly.
Well, that is weird.
Okay, so I have a couple other games that I want to at least bring to the table.
Not
that I think are games of the year. Knockout City.
Oh, yeah.
Not a game that I would really say is a game of the year type game.
It's kind of like Fall Guys was last year.
Right, exactly. It's like, oh yeah, that game came out this year. That was really fun. Again, I never played past the beta, but I played about a week of the beta, and it was so fun. Like, I was so impressed. I've tried a lot of battle royales that haven't stuck. What was the name of the... oh, God. Do you remember the Ubisoft one that came out not that long ago?
What was the gameplay?
It was like... Oh, was it something light or no? Oh God, they showed it off at some
Hunter's Arena Legends.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. No,
which is on PlayStation Plus.
Is it really?
This month. So I actually might play it. Oddly enough.
What was the gameplay of that game? Do we remember?
Hunter's Arena Legends?
Yeah.
It was like a Souls battle royale.
Oh right,
it was like
the
third-person
hand-to-hand.
action.
Yeah.
Or like kind of like For Honor-y.
Ubisoft battle royale.
Yeah, I'm at a loss for what game you're talking about.
Hyperspace.
So, okay,
there was a lot of like rooftops.
Yes, but it was a shooter.
Yeah. But it was about.
I remember this game.
I was just gonna say I've tried a lot of bland battle royales.
Sure, that sounds like a bland battle royale.
Yeah, so like Knockout City had a lot of charm to it, and obviously the dodgeball thing is very unique. And I was just surprised at how well it worked.
Yeah.
And I think it deserves a shout. It was pretty fun. There's another game that I passed up here. Oh, Valheim. So I got very into Valheim for like 2 weeks and then never played it again. It's a game where you are a Viking. It's kind of like a Minecraft type game where
it reminded me of like The Forest and like those kind of games.
You're building your base. You can start building a boat. Then you can go explore more of the map, and then you can get rarer stuff. Lets you fight bigger monsters. Eventually, I think the goal of it is to like fight the 5 bosses of this area, and then you win or whatever. But I never got that far. I just like the house building. It was really fun to just build your house in that game. There were a lot of cool physics. But that was really. It's been a weird year.
Yeah, it has been. Obviously, for obvious reasons.
Sure, of course. Although people are loving this game called Genesis Noir, which looks like a cool art style. I've not played it. I might give it a go because I think it is on Game Pass, like everything else.
You could, oh gosh, I'm blanking. You could have called Disco Elysium Genesis Noir, and I would have believed you that was the title.
That's another game that's getting a lot of love. Death's Door.
Yeah, and I'm not including like games that were like I'm not including like the Mass Effects.
Sure, yeah. Well, a lot of it's like, oh, this got ported to PS5.
Like Hades might end up being my game of the year this year. You never know.
Sure, yeah. That's what I was gonna say. Like, if Spiritfarer were this year, it might be my game of the year. I really like it a lot.
Yeah.
But I know Death's Door is a game that just came out recently that people are really liking. It's more like a Bastion type, like top-down combat style game that seems pretty interesting. But yeah, I might come back with like an amended list if I can look through stuff and see if there's anything I forgot. But really, in my head, it's only been Returnal and Hitman 3 have been like the 2 tent poles of this year for me.
Yeah, because we discussed Returnal at length and gave our adulations for it. I love Returnal. It's actually like the one legitimately fantastic game that I would say that I've played this year.
Yeah.
At this point, I said nothing would top it. I do think Dying Light has a chance. Because I have an immense amount of love for the first one. Yeah. I can just only hope that after the long, arduous development cycle that this one has gone through, that it comes out this is one of those cases where I just want more of a game. I just want more of Dying Light. Sure, so just give me that and I'll be satisfied.
I'm really curious to see your take on Hades. I was talking about this on stream actually, because I was like, I wonder what Jay's going to think, because obviously I've sung the praises of that game a lot. So many people have sung the praises of the game. Like, when I played it, obviously I love Supergiant already, but I didn't get it right at launch because I was waiting for the console thing. Yeah. Didn't realize it was going to be a year, but at some point I was like, all right, fuck it, I have to play this. Yeah. So I bought it on PC at that time. And by the time I played it, it had like, yo, this game is good vibes. And I was like, all right, sweet. Which I knew it would be. Supergiant's dope. But now there's an added level of, oh, it won IGN's Game of the Year. Oh, everyone talked about that game. Like, everyone who plays it seems to love it. Yeah. Now, I think we do have a bit of a plus going for you in that you've experienced rogue games now. Because had you come into this... Because I would say, not that Returnal was your first rogue game, but it was probably the first one you got, like, super duper into, right? Mm-hmm. So, I feel like if Hades had been your first, I wonder if it would still click the way it did, or the way that I hope it will. Here's
what I'll say about it. Mm-hmm. I would probably never have touched this game if it had not gotten the accolades that it has so far.
That's totally fair. That's absolutely fair.
Because on the face of it, it's not the kind of game that I would have ever just been excited for naturally.
Totally.
However, a few things going in its favor. Supergiant's pedigree. Yep. Even though I've never, not that I haven't liked their games, I just haven't played their games. Yeah. The Greek mythology of it, which has always been, I love history, I love mythology, I just think that kind of stuff's cool.
Yeah, that was an exciting thing for me too.
And then obviously the fact that it's been just heaped with praise.
Sure.
But I think that this is not going to be. Here's the example I'm going to use. This is, I don't think, going to be a Black Panther situation.
Okay.
We went into Black Panther is a very good movie.
Right. We have different opinions on it.
But I think Black Panther was overhyped.
Okay.
I don't know if this game's going to be overhyped or not, but because it's not the kind of game that I'm going into it expecting to love,
right.
I'm only going to play it because I know other people really like it.
Yeah. I'm
not going into it with like sky high expectations.
Sure.
I've tempered my expectations based on the genre of the game that it is.
Right. That makes sense.
So I think I can only be either, I can either go in and think, okay, this is what it is.
Right.
It's good, but it's not my thing.
Yeah.
Or I'll end up loving it. You never know.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the spectrum of outcomes, I think.
Yeah. I will say, as someone who got into Supergiant really with Transistor and then went back and played Bastion at the time, Supergiant is the one studio where it's like, you make games I don't think I would like.
Yeah.
And then I play them and they're awesome. So like Transistor on paper, it's like, oh, it's a top-down sort of slowed time combat game.
Yeah.
I ended up loving it. And I was like, it's so good. Bastion's the same way. Like I don't know, I give them such a leeway now because I know that they make good stuff even if it's not normally my kind of thing.
Yeah. And then I've been sitting here playing Slay the Spire for like 5 weeks straight. A game that I never thought in a million years I would have loved, but I really do.
Yeah. Sometimes
at this point, honestly, I'm not going to say it because it didn't come out this year, but it would be there with Returnal just for Game of the Year based on how much I've played it.
Yeah, totally.
So, but we are still got, it's the beginning of August, so we'll call it, oh God, wait, how many?
4 months?
5, because it's the beginning.
Right, okay, so we're counting, the rest of August.
So, we've got about 5 months worth of games left to see if anyone could potentially usurp. At this point, we're just going to go ahead and say
Returnal
as our Game of the Year so far. But, Tanner.
Yeah.
In the meantime.
Yeah.
During this dry spell, I feel like you're going to say Spiritfarer is your recommendation.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
For all the things I said, I sometimes I try to recommend stuff that I don't talk about at the top, but Spiritfarer has been such a pleasant thing for me. That's not something I talked about at the beginning. It's like it's just been so nice. Like even streaming it, the community is really sweet. Everybody in this like attached. It's one of those games where Hades was actually this way on Twitch as well, which was surprising. It's like everybody who's into this they just seem like nice people because it's such a gentle, like caring game. And honestly, like I'm a very like emotional forward person, but like this game made me tear up within 6 hours of playing it or so. And like I was genuinely surprised by it because I was like, oh, it's just, I'm going to take care of my crops, build some buildings, run around a ship. And then it tugs at your heartstrings in really surprising and subtle ways. Obviously, it's a game that in a way is dealing about death and, all these characters' lives and stuff. But most parts, it's like, oh, thanks, you made me pork chops. But then randomly, it's just like, oh, I really like pork chops because my daughter liked them. I miss her. And it's like shit like that just out of nowhere will be like, oh God. And so I love the tone of this. The art style is amazing, but the writing's great. And it's just one of those games that as you sort of unravel, as you peel back the layers, it becomes more and more special, I think. Yeah.
So here's what I'm going to recommend.
Okay.
Another game that's coming out here in the next few weeks, because it's a re-release.
Okay.
A director's cut.
Oh, right.
I'm going to recommend Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
Namely, I'm going to recommend, if you have not played Ghost of Tsushima, when this director's cut comes out, buy this director's cut.
Yeah, that would be, I think it would be the best way to experience the game for the first time.
Absolutely, because it's going to come with more content, some additional features, and just to speak on the merits of the game as it originally came out, game is just wonderful.
Yeah.
Really, spot on, sharp gameplay, cool history, because this is based on real historical events in the Mongol invasion of Japan. The only critique we could give is that, Jin is not like the most exciting character ever.
Yeah.
So go in with just the expectation that you're going to sort of just use him as a proxy to enter this world.
Sure.
And I think you would have nothing but tons of fun.
Yeah.
Riding around this island that's also just really beautiful.
Yes.
Especially if you play it on PS5, there's a frame rate boost, and samurai combat in 60 frames is just about as, I'm
going to say
that's what I like.
Best photo mode in any game ever. It's so good. Like, there's so many moments where you're just like, man, I want to picture this.
Yeah.
And then you can just, like, I would say I spent at least a handful of hours total of what I played in that game in photo mode. Especially when you get into like, there's so many cool opportunities when you're fighting somebody to just freeze it, and then like all of a sudden you're slashing through a guy's abdomen or something. It's really cool.
And just riding through fields of like really vibrant flowers.
Yes, yeah.
Ugh.
There's a beautiful sort of juxtaposition of that game where you have these very violent acts as the samurai, but it's amidst this beautiful nature.
Very.
And then randomly you'll just like go pet a fox, and it's like it does that really well. It has a very nice balance to it. Yeah, especially I don't know that I'm going to pick up Director's Cut just because I don't know if I want to spend another however much on it.
Yeah.
But if you've not played the game, totally pick it up.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that'll about do it for episode 17.
We did it.
So maybe next week we'll be coming back. I imagine here in the next few weeks you'll be hearing my thoughts on on Hades for the first time. You've heard more than enough of my thoughts on Returnal because I had plenty.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very curious as to what I'm going to be thinking about that game. So, and we'll probably hear at least your thoughts.
Yes.
On 12 minutes.
Yes.
So for each of those, get excited. But until then,